Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sunday Night Sports Guys. Hope everybody's had themselves a great week. Lots of sports to get to tonight. Once again, joined by my partner in crime, Troy Bladesy Blades in Hammonds Plains, Nova Scotia. Tonight, we are without our other partner, T-Mac, but in case Michael Link is checking in with us at some point in time, Link, T-Mac wants you to know he's in Montreal today. He's getting the scouting report on the Montreal Canadiens. Trying to help them with their power play, apparently they're having some issues with. Hell, if we would know. Not like we're following the Canadians too sharply, Bladesy, but T-Mac's up there on some family time and checking out his favorite team. So I'm sure he's having himself a ball up there in Le Montreal.
Yeah, I think they're going to need more help with power play and everything else. But they are over 500, Duke, so you got to give them a little bit of credit, I guess.
Well, they are. And not that we're going to get into a load of hockey talk tonight. We'll wait till next Tuesday when Mac's back. And we promise our hockey guys we'll have a little better segment for hockey next week. But this week we're going to get to things that Bladesy and I follow a lot more closely and sound a bit more educated, or at least he does for sure. Week 9 of the National Football League is in the books once again after last night's Monday Nighter between Dallas and the New York Giants. And seems lately the Monday Nighters haven't been too good, Bladesy. Thursday night games haven't been too bad. They've been pretty decent with a lot of the – seems like our top 5 are appearing in that. You've been keeping up on them Thursday Nighters, I assume?
Yeah, they're pretty good. And, I mean – yeah, the Monday Nighters have been pretty shitty. Joke's going, and the NFL just hates ESPN, so they've been getting shitty games on Monday nights, and NBC kind of gets the good game on Sunday night. Next week that will change with Seattle going into San Francisco, so that's going to be a nice Monday night coming up this week. But,
Well, it seems like the way the Monday Nighter has gone for us here the last little while, I get you guys to submit your top 5 power rankings. We haven't even needed Monday night. You guys have before me first thing Monday morning without even that game coming into question. So definitely that'll change next week with that game coming up. So we're going to get right into it and cover the week based off of our top 1. So let me get set up on here. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Getting a little quicker. T-Mac's not here, but we are going to post his rankings. And I'm here. So we'll start down at the number 5 position because there are some changes here, believe it or not. The 3 of us, as diehard Patriots as we are, we will let a little of the cat out of the bag. The Pats are not number 1 this week for any of us. So we'll leave it as a bit of a surprise for everybody to find out where we each have them ranked. So up they go. So at number 5, Bladesy, you and T-Mac went with the Chiefs. Obviously, with Mahomes still out, some curiosity as to how they were going to handle things. Tough game with Minnesota. Not an easy game for them this week, and they were able to come out with the home win. What was it about Kansas City over some of these other teams who were kind of right there on the bubble that had you commit to them at number 5?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, they were top 2 all year, of course, until Mahomes went out. That kind of plays into it a little bit. I mean, Moore's done a fantastic job, I would say, better than most people would have thought. I mean, they got beat by the Packers, which another top 5 team. Green Bay for most of the year. They got beat by them, and then Minnesota comes in there. One of the 2-loss team comes in there yesterday, and they end up winning by a field goal. I just think. Just from everything that happened yesterday, for me, the Packers were kind of close, but them going into the LA and just laying an egg, really. I mean, Rodgers looked like horseshit. I think that was the thing. It was kind of between them and the Packers for me, and the Seahawks. Seahawks are still there. Maybe we'll talk about them. I don't think any of us have them in the top 5, but they're really close, and I still think they're right up there as well. But I think the Chiefs, just for what they've done, they still got a great team. And Mahomes coming back this week, I do believe that they were still number 5 for me, just by that win over the Vikings and the Packers loss against the Chargers kind of thing.
Right. Well, I opted to stay with the Packers because I did have them at number 4 last week, and it was essentially between them and Seattle, and it was a tough call. Seattle did have, they got the win, and as you said, Packers didn't look too good against the Chargers, which I think is going to be an interesting team moving forward. I mean, Gordon is back in the thing. He's starting to find his game a little bit. Rivers is still Rivers. I mean, he's a guy that is capable of taking that team on a run, but we'll wait a few more weeks to determine if that's going to be the case. But I guess my only thing, and again, this is our first year at doing these power rankings, so I guess we're kind of learning some things, and we're each using our own kind of methods of tiebreaker and stuff like that. I just more or less give it to Green Bay because I had them at 4, and they are ahead of their division and things like that. I think if Seattle had been ahead of San Francisco or something, I probably would have took Seattle there. But nonetheless, Seattle is definitely looking very, very good. Running the ball well. Wilson is just, he's on an MVP type year. It's going to be an interesting race for the MVP for sure. And we'll definitely be getting to another guy who's in the fray. Unfortunately for us this week, with that talk, but Wilson has looked good. He's been solid the whole year, and obviously this is a guy that's been to 2 Super Bowls, has the experience, and he's got some talent around him. And of course, as we know, Josh Gordon got let go by the Patriots in Ottawa, and just seemed like within hours or an hour, Seattle picked him up. Do you think he's going to make that big a difference with Seattle, or is he just another body? If he can get into their game plan, maybe to pay dividends for him.
He can do. I think it's the problem with Josh Gordon is not talent. Obviously, it never has been really with talent. I don't know, but it just seemed like probably behind the scenes, I think Patriots and Belichick probably didn't want to spend that kind of time babysitting him, for lack of a better term. I'm assuming that's what they've done for the last year and a half. And it's a shame, we'd like to head. We've definitely needed him. Yeah. Wouldn't hurt to have another player there as wide receiver. Right. So it's really hard to say how he'll win there. Who knows? Maybe suspend it next week because he can't play off the week. Who knows, right? Yeah. But that being said, like you said, Russell Wilson's got 22 touchdowns and one interception. That's unbelievable, right? He doesn't have the greatest wide receiver. He doesn't have the greatest receiving core. No. Nobody else kind of thing. Disley was a good tight end. He's hurt. They run the ball a lot, but you got to give that man credit for that for sure. So. As far as I'm concerned, good luck to Josh Gordon. I hope he does well. I hope he doesn't, if they end up beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I'll root against him, but I hope he doesn't. I just hope he doesn't crash and burn. Just a man, soul, just him as a human being kind of thing. He's got his demons, we all have. Yeah. And hopefully he get that under control and make himself a living.
Well, that's first and foremost. And, you look at Seattle, and that could be kind of it might be a happy medium for Josh Gordon because he was in Cleveland. It was definitely not a disciplined type environment there. Then he comes over to New England, and I have to think that's a bit of a shocker because the standards that they set there are so much more than a lot of places, especially Cleveland. But now he goes to Seattle, and with Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, them guys are. I mean, they're hungry. They're winners. They want to win. But it seems like the atmosphere it's a bit different. Not everybody can make it in New England. And as hard as I know Brady tried working with him and he tried working with Bryant, some of these guys it's not easy. It's like, in baseball, New York and Boston, not just everybody can adapt to these places. So like you said, first and foremost is that, his life continues on the path that it's going of staying clean and things, and who knows, maybe that'll be a good fit for him in Seattle, and who knows, maybe we do find out in the Super Bowl. You never know. So anyway, moving along, we're going to take off 5, and we're going to move up to number 4, and Mac went with the Niners at number 4. You and I both had the Ravens. Oops, what am I doing? There we go. Got Max Niners in there, and he didn't really elaborate too much on his picks this week. Obviously, we were just kind of Skyping the best we could. He's not here to really defend himself, but no doubt San Francisco does need to be in that top 5. You took Baltimore at 4, obviously for the win that they've had against New England. Geez, I'm telling you, we may as well talk about that game right now. They did.
We have to.
Well, I know, but it's it'll be expected of us to do that.
I know.
But you know what? It come at a good time. You just one of those things where you got to tip your cap. I mean, Baltimore did everything they needed to do right to make that result occur for themselves. And coming into the game, Bill when he was interviewed about it, and they talked to him about Lamar Jackson, he already stated before this game that it was a problem. He was going to be a problem. And when Bill Belichick says something's a problem, you can almost guarantee you're going to see that it's going to be challenging for them in the game. And the kid had a real good game. I mean, you tip your cap to him. I still think, and what I didn't quite understand is that they all talked all week about how Belichick will find out what you're good at. What is your strength? And he really zones in on trying to take that strength away. And running the ball is a staple of Ravens football for years and years, as long as John Harbaugh has been there as coach. He didn't get that done. Do you think they just didn't scheme enough for it? Did Bill show him enough? Didn't want to show him everything about it? Or did Baltimore maybe change it up a little bit differently? What do you think? What did you get from it?
Everybody's going to say it's a homer comment I'm going to make here, but I really do believe there's two things, two major things here. First of all, yes, Craig, yes, Link. Patriots have had a cupcake schedule so far. No doubt about it. Everybody knows that. We know that. And I do believe they just weren't prepared. And I'm not talking coach staff. I'm not talking anything like that. One thing I think they were not prepared to face, an above-average NFL football team because they haven't played one yet. No. Let's be honest. Yeah. That's no excuse. That's just my observation. One thing. I mean, let's be honest. It's 17-0 for the. We can get going. 17-0. They bought 17 points. Yeah. Number two, I do believe, and this is the part that I, say people say, "Oh, he's just, but I mean, it's happened time again. Is they are not going to show them everything. This is one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. It's them, it's the Chiefs, and it's the Patriots, right? Yep. And this could very well be the AFC Championship game. Very easily. And you think Bill is going to, give him, let them show them all the cards? There is no way. I mean, that offense wasn't good. It just wasn't creative at all. I really think that they came out there with a preseason playbook. And that, like I said, it's not an excuse. I believe that's how they do things. And, But all power to Baltimore, like I say, like you said, tip your hat. Yep. But that style only works if you get ahead, right? I mean, all they did was run the ball. I mean, they ran right down the throat. They ran, Ingram was unreal. Right between the tackles, man, drove right down the throat. Yeah. I mean, Jackson was awesome running the ball. Whether that's sustainable or not, we'll see. Right. Obviously, it hasn't in the past. I mean, you're one of the biggest opponents of a running quarterback like that. Yeah. And I know he can throw the ball, but I mean, that looked more like RG3 than Deshaun Watson, whatever, right? Yeah. That was about running the ball. He did a great job of it. Yep. But like you said, but they bought him 17, but it was really not indicative of a Patriots game. No. I mean, a lot of stupid penalties. I mean, they bring the ball down the first drive, they stop them on the 3, and they jump. They jump offside and give them the first down or whatever it was, right?
When's the last time you see a Belichick coach team do that? I mean, it's...
never do that.
No.
Gave them points right there.
Yeah.
They did that a few times. They made stupid penalties that they never make, and give prolonged drives and things like that.
Yeah.
And we said, not making excuses, just that's what I saw of it. And even with all that, they came back, made 17-10, driving down. I really don't understand going for the field goal at the end of that half. I think they had, let's be honest, 17-10, was it James? Yeah, James White gets the ball and trips over his own guy's foot. Going in, he was in the end zone. Would have been a tie game going into the half.
Yeah.
Trips over the foot, down at 2, 1 or whatever it is. I thought they might try it. They didn't, which is fine. They got the field goal, but they had the ball in the net. I think probably because they had the ball coming out.
Yeah.
Drove down the way, down to 30. They moved the ball at will, and Edelman fumbles, which never happened.
You don't see that happen.
No. Guy picks it up and runs it back 70 yards. So, Baltimore did have their way with them. It's definitely more than anybody else has this year.
For sure.
But, Patriots couldn't have played much worse. And to be honest, we go the other way. Ravens muff the kick, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that something the Patriots don't normally do. They don't normally shoot themselves in the foot. Usually they let others shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
But that being said, none of us here thought they were going 16-0. Everybody wants to say, they lost the game. Well, you know what? I think they're going to lose one or two more. Exactly. We got some tough games coming up. They'll lose one or two more. Doesn't mean they're not going to be ready to go. Last year they lost the fucking Lions and Titans, and everybody was ready to bury it in and see what happened. It happens every year. They never, ever show all their cards early. It's all the long run.
Well, that's what. Yeah, well, that's what obviously when the weekend's over, we tend to listen to podcasts and we watch different things on YouTube and the various talking heads that are out there. And that was one thing Shannon Sharp pointed out with the Patriots. He said one thing about
I don't listen to Shannon Sharp.
You don't listen to Shannon Sharp? I find him entertaining. That's him and Skip Bayless put on a good show. And I never really cared much for these guys, so they kind of grew on me. But he did make a valid point when he said that, Bill's always about the long game. The long game meaning down the road. It's like he almost kind of confirmed a lot of what you're saying. It's like he just didn't feel the Patriots left everything out there for everything to be seen. Offensively, I think defensively he might have seen a good portion of the playbook because I think he wanted to know how are you going to react? What do you do in this situation? What's your tendencies on these here? And then, knowing full well, Belichick, it's funny with him. You watch him when he's talking to officials and stuff like that, and the look on their face compared when they talk to him compared to other coaches. It's like, but he knows so much, and I'm sure he's like, I don't know this kid. I see him now up front. Now I kind of got more of a feel for it. I know you can watch him on tape and stuff, but there's a difference when you actually in live speed and stuff like that. And I think that's what he's done. I don't think defensively he left it all out there. He wanted to know certain things, and they tried some stuff. Definitely the discipline was terrible for a Belichick coach team. And I would not have wanted to be in that locker room at halftime, and I sure as hell don't want to be to practice whenever they get off their bye week here and stuff. But again, from a Patriots point of view, I think the loss coming, and I think that also plays into it because he had like a 2-game lead up on these teams, right? Now all of a sudden, though, you got your loss, and I'm not insinuating that Bill did what he had to do to throw. Like he didn't care if he won the game or not. I'm not saying that at all. I don't think they like to lose any game. No. But he will try things for the sake of the bigger score down the road. And of course, now we have Buffalo. That's only a game behind us with a game against us in Foxborough. Here's the other question I was going to ask you. Did you see enough from the Patriots to make you think it's going to be essential that they have to get the home game and get those 2 home games in the playoffs? Do you think that has to be a must, or you got to see it a little bit more to make that determination?
I mean, they went into Kansas City and won last year, so I hate to say it's a must. I don't want to go back into Baltimore again, to put it that way. But I don't know if it's that big of a deal. It's not like going into Denver like it used to be with, with the mall and all that kind of stuff. Whether you go into Kansas City or whether you go into Baltimore. And right now, you're looking at going into Baltimore, I would say. We're one game ahead of them. They've got the tiebreaker now, so you end up tied with them. I mean, Kansas City, we got a 2-game lead on them, still got to play them.
Yeah.
I mean, do I think Baltimore's good enough to run the table? I haven't looked at their schedule, but I'm assuming no. I don't think that they would be that good. I mean, they still got to play Houston. They still got to play at the Rams. They still got to play San Francisco, at Baltimore. I mean, yeah. So, there's a couple more losses in there for them, for sure. So I'm not really concerned about it yet. I obviously would rather be playing at home, especially now. I mean, especially with everything. I mean, they're not. It was the it's always the media. But it's the media that will try to build them up so much so that they can tear them down. It's crazy. I don't know any Patriots fans that were sitting here going, "Oh my God, this is better than 2017." None. There was nonsense in that. It was like, what? It's great. Man, 42. We've said that 1,000 times. Yeah. And he's still playing out of his ass. So. The media says, "Oh, you built them up." Like, no, you did it. They did it. Now they're trying to tear them down. Like, they got a loss. All right, too bad. They'll probably get a couple more. I'll take my chances in January still.
Well, as I've learned in the past, and of course that was 4 years ago, but as I've learned, and as Skip Bayless says, if there's one man you do not bet against in the National Football League, it is TB12. So. We will see what the weeks ahead. No Patriots next weekend for us, so everybody will love this show. That doesn't mean they're still not going to be in the top 5 because they're not going to drop out for not playing.
No way.
So, but we will move on to number 3 in our power rankings this week, and everybody's got somebody different. Pat, for the first time, Max got the Patriots down to 3rd. You've took the Niners at the 3rd spot, and I've took the Saints. Why did you not have an 8-0 team higher than 3?
Okay. Well, this is my reasoning for that. And, they played – you got to give them credit. You can only play, as we use that for an excuse when people say about the Patriots, you can only play on your schedule. Yep. But as we've always said with the Patriots, and the Patriots here like to let us know, the Patriots haven't played anybody. Well, you know what? Neither are the 49ers. Let's be honest. Their record, or the record of teams that they have played is right around, I think I sent it to you, 340? 340 winning percentage, something like that. I mean, the only decent teams they've played is the Rams and Carolina, I do believe, at home. So, you can't have it both ways. And you had Patriots number 1. Well, Patriots are Super Bowl champions. I don't think the 49ers are not defending Super Bowl champions. So they don't get the benefit of that doubt. They haven't been a good team for a long time. So they don't get the benefit of that doubt. Now, that being said, like I said, yes, they are undefeated. It was close. I almost put them ahead of the Patriots. I really did. Because the Patriots didn't play a very good game. No. I know we talked about this before. It's like when the Patriots were undefeated, even if they lose one, are we going to move them, or are you going to move down to second? If it's a close game, no, I don't think because, but I think they got beat soundly enough that it warranted that. San Francisco looked at it. You know what? They beat Arizona on Thursday night. Almost lost that game. As far as I'm concerned, they still haven't done enough. Now Patriots are on a bye this week, and San Francisco is playing at home against Seattle. If they beat Seattle next week, I will guarantee that San Francisco will be a bit above the Patriots in my power rankings next week because they've earned it. But at this point, they're going to have to show me more against a really good division rival, and that is at home. That is even a home game for San Francisco.
Right.
But even if they win that, even by a point, even by whatever, they will hit the Patriots at that point. But they got to show me that one. That one's going to be a big game. That's a Monday nighter. That's probably the best Monday nighter of the year so far, I would say.
It sounds well, by the looks of this, I haven't gone thoroughly through the whole schedule for for week 10, but I'm almost certain that's probably. I don't see any other game. I don't see anything that you could really hang your hat on. Minnesota, Dallas, maybe, right. But I think
Carolina, Green Bay, Carolina.
Yeah, that could be, because now we know that what's his name, Cam Newton's out for the season. He's placed on IR today.
Yeah, it's a pretty shitty week. No doubt about it.
It is. So I would say we're gonna make. If we got a lot of family plans, we're probably gonna price them in on this Sunday.
Remember Day weekend.
Yes.
Make time. As Bill Simmons has to say, that's an apple picking weekend. You got to go out picking with your family. That's the Sunday to go.
I still got to get that. I got that You sent me that podcast. I gotta
force
myself to hit
to
look at it.
It's fun.
All right. So at number 2, we won't go too heavy into it because we've covered a bit about this now. But Mac took the Ravens at 2, and we both took the Patriots at 2, so I think we've kind of been clear on why we decided to take them out. I agree with you. Had it been a close game, field goal or something like that difference, and it was tight the whole way, then you know what? I don't think that would have warranted dropping them. But again, I think we have to tip our cap and say, you know what? We got our ass handed to us fairly well for a Patriots team. So Mac, I'm just assuming, was so disgusted that he just decided to bring the Ravens up. But I won't speak completely for him. So at number 1, down, Mac has the Saints, you have the Saints, and me and NFL.com have the 49ers at number 1. It was funny, I just looked at the NFL.com top 5 rankings before we came on here, and I promise you I did not look at what they had. Pretty identical. I think the only thing we flip-flopped on was the Pats and the Saints at 2 and 3.
You?
I had Patriots at 2, and they had the Saints at 2. So, how do you have the Saints? I know you've talked about why you took the Niners where you did and stuff like that. The Saints didn't play this week. Because as I said, we're still trying to figure out this whole power rankings thing. So what was your criteria? How did you come to the conclusion of making them number 1?
Well, my whole criteria in most of this is who would I pick? These two teams are playing. Who would I bet on? Who would I bet real money on? Who would I bet my hard-earned money on?
Yep.
And if Saints are playing 49ers on a neutral field,
yep,
I'm betting on the Saints.
Okay.
So why would I put the 49ers ahead of them? That's my opinion.
Fair enough.
I mean, now that kind of goes in the window when you're talking about the Patriots. I'll probably bet on the Patriots for, it's head versus heart kind of thing, obviously.
Yeah.
This one is all head.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm just saying that's my opinion. I would bet on the Saints over the 49ers. I would probably bet on the Saints in San Francisco. I think we mentioned this. I've already bet on Seattle Monday night against the 49ers. They're a 6-point underdog right now, Seattle is.
Okay.
And I'm thinking a lot of people will jump on Seattle. They might not. So I wanted to get it early.
Yeah.
That kind of goes against what I'm saying. Because I should be saying, well, Seattle's ahead of 49ers, but let's not get crazy. They already know. So that was just silly.
Yep.
So, but my whole, if it, let's say the tiebreaker or whatever, I think Saints are right now. Saints are the best team in the league. Even over the Patriots. I have to say, Saints lost one game, and that was the game Drees went out against the Rams. They were just disarray. They weren't ready for that. And Teddy Bridgewater came in there. We all know what he did coming in. And Breeze is back and has got beat, as I can see. So that's my reasoning for it. I can understand. I can understand putting in the 49ers. They're undefeated. Like I say, you can only beat the teams that are on your schedule. They don't let you schedule extra games.
Right.
It's not college system. We don't need to worry about that. But
No, I would agree. Like I can see the argument for New Orleans, especially with what Bridgewater was able to do to maintain, the momentum that they had going with Breeze in there, and now with him back, I mean, clearly they're right now. I think you would have to maybe make them even the Super Bowl favorite based on what we're seeing so far, schedule that they've had. But again, we're only at week 8. We still got half a season left to go. I went with San Francisco, and the only reason that got me to take them there is I think was two things. One, they are undefeated, and I think there's something to be said about having a team at number 1. But Garoppolo finally had that kind of game that I think what the guy they traded for showed up in that game Thursday night against the Cardinals. And whether that's the start of great things for Jimmy G, I don't know. I mean, let's not get too over the top here. I mean, it was the Cardinals. They're a team that's rebuilding with a young quarterback who looked pretty good himself, Kyler Murray. But Garoppolo looked pretty good. I think he finally had that game where he felt comfortable in the system that that they have in place there in San Francisco. That defense is going to win them a lot of games still, and they can run the ball. And those are things when it comes, playoff time. I mean, that's been a staple of the Patriots for many of their Super Bowl runs. Pittsburgh, good teams, they run the ball, and they have good defenses. And San Francisco is proving it. All I can say is I think you're going to see some of the best playoff football you've seen in a number of years because there's some real stout defenses. A lot of them same teams can run the ball, and that's where I think it then will come down, if all things being equal, comes down to quarterback play. And I kind of like our guy a little bit for certain reasons. And I think if you're a Saints fan, you're definitely liking your guy and stuff like that. Garoppolo still has to prove himself in that. But for this week here, I felt to give them the number 1 spot. And like I said, I don't pass up your argument for the Saints there. It could very easily have been them as well. So we'll see what happens with them. New Orleans is playing Atlanta. So unless something tragic happens along the way, I'm pretty sure we'll be having this discussion again next week, depending on what but you did say if the 49ers win that game on Monday night, you might have to flip that.
Well, I'll push them ahead of the Patriots for sure. And whether they go ahead of the Saints or not, we'll see.
All right.
We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'll guarantee they get second. They may get first, depending on what happens there. But speaking of that, what a shit show that is, huh? I mean, geez, man. That should have been a premier NFC South tilt. And, what is happening in Atlanta? Holy shit.
Well, who is it that's, it's not even Matt Ryan that's quarterbacking now. It's,
it's Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub. Well, I thought he was
58 years old. Holy crap. Yeah.
Oh, these quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick down in Miami. What do you have, 3 touchdowns Monday night against, Sunday they played, wasn't it? Didn't they beat the Jets?
The Jets. That's horrible.
Wow.
That's sad, the Jets. Oh my God. Anyway. It's funny because you got Simpson as a Miami fan, and he was all pissed off that they won. Of course, he was number 1 pick. Now that kind of screwed him up. Now he's in the mix. He's all pissed off. I sent him a text like, I told him on Saturday night at poker, like, telling him Miami's going to beat the Jets. I thought he said. Told you.
So one question I was going to ask you, because you mentioned about already laying money down for next Monday night against Seattle and San Francisco. So for those who are watching this that don't do a lot of betting, what happens here? What is the benefit of you placing your bet, whether it was yesterday or whenever you decide to put it? Like, does it close itself down more as we get closer to the game, or how does that exactly work?
Okay, so what happened was, and I don't know if this works the same on ProLink, but like I just have an account on the sites. It's legal in Canada. Bet365 don't give me any. Anyway, so I got a little bit of money. Great. I mean, just a little bit of money on there. A couple $100 just to have fun with. It ain't big money, don't get me wrong. But, so what happens is, so the line came out, they were +6. Like Seattle +6 coming out. In San Francisco, right? And I'm like, holy shit, man, that's a lot of points. Like I can't imagine. I know San Francisco's played well and everything, but I gotta think people are gonna. If people start betting, if they start betting Seattle on that, what the book wants to do is have even money on both sides. So if they end up a lot of money comes in on Seattle. They're going to move that line down, to 5, 4, 4.5, whatever it is, right? Try to get more people to bet on San Francisco so that they have even money on both sides. So I'm thinking, when it's +6, I got to get it now, because if I wait, get a lot of money, it's going to go down 5, 4,
okay.
whatever, right? So that's kind of why I just usually I'll wait. It's not betting on money anyway, but it's the fun of the game. It's the game part of it, right? So when I found out it was +6, I said I want to get it now, because I think once the money starts coming in, people are going to still get on Seattle. It's still Russell Wilson. It's still those guys, right?
Yeah.
So it hasn't moved a lot. Or last I checked, it still hasn't moved a lot. So I don't know what's going on with that. But to be honest with you, I threw a unit. Let's call it a unit. Up on the money line. Seattle win the game outright, which was like +215 at that point.
Yep.
So like that $10 you win 30 or 31.50 or whatever it is, right?
Gotcha.
So I just just because I thought that the money would come in on that team, I thought it might change and you'd have the worst part number. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
If you think money comes in the other way, you wait.
Yeah.
You might get a point and a half or a point more or whatever like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like horse racing. Like horse racing, you bet on a horse. It doesn't matter when you bet on it because it's pari-mutuel, they call it. So it's like it depends on the money that comes in, the odds can change. But when you make a bet on a betting site or Vegas or whatever the odd is in, or whatever the spread is then, that's what you have a ticket, and that's what it says. It can't change.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up. No, it changes. Yours don't change.
Right. Yeah, and that's the one thing I will say for people who are watching who don't know a whole lot about the whole betting and stuff like that. I've known this guy for a long, long time, and one thing I'll say about him and even his brothers, they like to, play a little bit of coin with the games, and even the big horse races and stuff, is that they've always been very responsible in how they do it, because I think of all the habits you can get yourself into, gambling is the one I think can cripple you the fastest. I mean, you hear tremendous horror stories. I even know my old man back in the day used to play cards and lose his unemployment check, which was a big deal back then, back home and stuff at that time. And so, that's one thing I've admired about you guys. You've always played it responsibly. You have so much, and you play what little bit you play, and if you win, you win. If you lose, well, you got, you didn't lose big, it wasn't a big loss in the process. And
just entertainment, dude. That's the way it should be. It should be just entertainment dollars, and you don't bet any more than you can lose. That's for sure. And I have as much fun winning $10 as I do 100. Really, I mean, I don't win 100 very often. I win a lot of tens, lose a lot of tens. If you go tens, I'm like, I can't plug off a couple of tens.
So I wonder how Brother Bob made out with the Chargers this weekend.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row.
That's right. Oh, hey. That's another thing. That's a story for another day. People playing pro line. Yeah. That's a government scam as far as I'm concerned. You got to play parlays and all that stuff. Man, you gotta get yourself an online site like it's it's legal. You throw a couple hundred bucks on there and play with that. You can. I put $200 on in 2015. Still playing on it. I've withdrew $500 or something like that, and right now I've got $300 on there. So I think we've done all right.
I would say,
but you got to be patient. It took me a while. It was going up, down, and you're not going to make your rent. You're not going to make your mortgage. It's just for fun. If you take $100 off once in a while and go to dinner or something, that's fun. That's the fun of it. That's all it is. It ain't living it. That's for sure. It's just for fun.
Yeah, I used to play the pro line a little bit, get right excited about it, and then after a while, you're kind of telling me, I don't know, I don't think that's a good. That was when it first came out. Doesn't seem like this is the right way to go about it.
It's a little better than pro line because they do have the spreads, the actual spreads and things like that. But you still got to bet 2 games, at least 2 games, right? Whereas if you bet in Vegas or you bet on the online site that I have, it's one game. You bet one game. It's just like I said, Seattle, San Francisco. Say it was +6 Seattle. You put $10 on Seattle +6, and if they come within 6 or 5, you win, and if you bet on San Francisco, they'd have to win by more than 6, and if it came to 6, just push, you get your money back. Stuff like that.
Well,
I'm not going to gamble, Duke. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not going to do that.
I was surprised. I was surprised yesterday. I put a meme on our Sunday Night Sports Guys Facebook page about the MVP finalist had been announced yesterday. So I put a meme up there, and I see your brother Brandon had a bet. I assume he's in the same.
I think he got something. I think he got a different one.
For Bregman to get the American League MVP.
What did he have there? I didn't see what he had for odds or anything. What did he put on there?
I'm not sure. You'd have to. He made a comment and he posted the screenshot of what he had there. All I know is he had Bregman for that one, and I think there was 2 other selections on other stuff. I'm not sure what that was. I just noticed the Bregman thing, so.
It's fun. Don't get carried away. But it's like anything. Don't get carried away with it. Have some fun with it. Throw 20 or 30 bucks, and it's your entertainment instead of going to a movie or whatever. I'm concerned about.
Yep. Well, speaking of Bregman, we are going to move along to Major League Baseball, and we're going to do a bit of a wrap-up on that, talk a little bit about what we watched unfold, and congratulations to you and Mac for accurately predicting how this World Series was going to go. Now, in fairness to myself, I did not make fun of you last week. All I said is, how confident do you feel about your pick? Now, I was feeling pretty good at the time because I took Houston in 6, and it was looking like that was a good possibility, but it did not take place. So, I don't know. I was quite entertained, Bladesy, by this World Series, and what it ultimately came down to is what we discussed, and of course everybody else was saying how it came down to that starting pitching. Is this going to change the way teams do things in the off season? Because we're going to kind of talk a little bit after about the off season, what we might be looking at here. But has these two teams kind of, do you think, are going to make people think maybe this whole bullpen thing isn't as big a deal as those horses we need in the front of the rotation?
Well, I would say yes, but that being said, there's only so many teams going to be able to get 3 horses at the front of the rotation like those 3 both these teams had. There's only not that many of them.
No.
So, I mean, that was the whole reason that we said, and I think Max the same way as me. I mean, like I told you before, I was like, I didn't think, start of the year, I was like, Houston is the top team. Like, I got Houston winning the whole thing. And, still ahead, and then just watching Washington do what they did over the course of the playoffs. I mean, they were 5-0 in elimination games.
Amazing.
And all five of those, they were behind.
Yeah.
All 5. Yeah. Count the wild card game against Milwaukee right through. Right? So, and everybody said how their bullpen sucked so bad, and it did. But it didn't matter in the end. They still, I don't know. I think it's all who you got. Right? It's all kind of the horses that you have. You work for these guys because they got Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin, and Sanchez kind of loud.
Yeah.
I mean, which had an awesome playoff. Houston obviously got those top 3 guys, and Greinke was dealing in that game 7, and just ran out of gas or whatever. But I mean, if you got 3 guys that start, it's like the Red Sox. I mean, if you got Sale and Price, and these guys all 100% healthy, you can do that.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you do what you did in 2018, and then just bring guys in when you can and just get through it.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you got. As far as I'm concerned, but good on the Nationals. Like I said, I mean, just the way they came back in all those games, you got to give them credit. I mean, first time ever, all 7 teams won on the road. It's unbelievable. In any sport, ever.
Yep.
Any sport, that's pretty believable. But yeah, it was entertaining.
Only in baseball, Bladesy. Only in baseball does the miraculous happen. Only one team in the history of sports has ever come back in the championship 3 down 0-3. Where'd that happen? That was in baseball. What sport had the only teams to ever win all games on the road? Baseball. Someday these guys are going to learn and wake up to what's going on out there. But nonetheless, I do want to just touch on it, get your opinion on this. Should A.J. Hinch be blamed for that Stroh's loss? Did you agree with the way he went about? Would you have done what he did at those times he did in the game? Would you have left Garrett Cole sitting in the bullpen when you had him at his disposal, even though he would have had to come in and do something he hadn't done only once, and that was in college? Or do you think Hinch went with what had always worked, and he was right to do what he did?
I think he had to go with what worked. Because you know what, dude? I mean, we always say this stuff, and you know what? They brought Cole in, and he got killed. Then everybody blamed him then, right? I mean, Dave Roberts is dealing with that shit now, right? You know, it's like with Kershaw, right? So, you know, why you Kershaw in there? Like, holy shit! So now he didn't bring in his guy, and why did he bring him in? It's like, only 2020 with these guys.
Oh, for sure.
So, I mean, you know, the man's never done it. Never done the big leagues. You know what? He had plenty of pitching there. None of them Garrett Cole, don't get me wrong. But Garrett Cole at 50% or whatever, I mean, these guys, I don't know. I don't think he can blame him for that. I mean, obviously, you got to use whatever you have at your disposal, but was he at his disposal? I mean, how good was he at that point? He just pitched,
But Will Harris gave up the home run in game 6. So I guess the counter argument to what you would say, and I would agree with you. I think, that's the formula that had worked for him all season. I mean, Harris's numbers were great. They were just top notch for his role and what he was doing, and that was his situation to come in there. The only thing I would think I don't know if Hinch would ever say it, and maybe he was asked, did that play in the back of his mind? Harris gave up that home run. And I mean, let's be honest, though. Kendrick hits one down the frickin' line and hits the foul pole. I mean,
that was a cheap. That's cheap. That's pretty cheap. No, I mean, that changed the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that changed the whole thing. That's a cheap one. That's not the pitcher's fault.
No.
So
the other thing in that game, and certainly something you can elaborate a lot on, was the call down at first base. Who was it? Who was running at the time? Trey Turner, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Trey Turner, the one running down the line. He's inside the line. Clearly, you can see that he's that. The argument that comes into play there is, did he veer back into the line soon enough to not have that call made? What did you think about what was happening there when you were watching it?
All right, so what people have to understand about this rule, it's all because of, for bunts and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So 45-foot line, all right? So when bases are 90 feet apart, so 45 feet, halfway down the line, you got the baseline, and you've seen the chalk go out in foul territory, and then go towards the base, okay? So there's a 3-foot area there, all right? That is the area. Because I think I've watched some people and I've heard people talk about this, and they're like, well, he was in the right lane. He was in, he makes his own baseline. Because he's inside. He ran straight. Like, no, that's not what the rule states. The rule states that you have to be running inside that lane. All right, which is in foul territory. You have to be in foul territory, and if you are outside of foul territory and you interfere with throw to first, you are out. Period. No questions asked. There is one thing, because the base is actually in fair territory. All right? So, if you're running down in the box correctly,
right,
at the last step, you are allowed to come out to touch the base. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But it actually says right in the rule book, if you are running down inside in fair territory the whole way, you don't get that protection at the base. You haven't been. Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
You don't get the protection at the base. You've been running down the whole way. if you're correctly and you come out to the base and touch it and it's and you interfere with the throw, then you're fine. If you're running down inside the line, which is just, I mean, that's not even a question. I mean, everybody saw it. He was in the grass most of the way, right? And most people are. That's the problem with this whole rule, actually, is that the straight line is always in fair territory, right? From the batter's box, especially for a right-handed hitter. It has to be. I mean, who's thinking about going, the straightest or the shortest point, however I want to say it, the shortest way to a base is straight line kind of thing. You're not thinking about going there. Nobody ever thinks about that. And it doesn't get called a lot, especially now because there isn't any more bunts. Nobody bunts anymore. So, I mean, it was a bunt, it was a little chop, same thing. But the problem with it is that he was running inside the whole way. So he doesn't get the benefit of that out. And yes, it was at the base. And, I mean, the throw comes inside, takes first baseman's glove off. There's really nothing anyone can do. It's a no-brainer call.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because, and he called it right away.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at replay, he called it right away. And then they went replay, which I don't know, people saying, well, I don't think it was replayable, but whatever. They went to replay. They wanted to see if they did it right. They did it right. By rule, they did it right. Now, that being said, maybe the rule has to change a little bit. And I don't know what the change can be. It does seem to be, it is tough. I mean, but that's the way the rule's been for 100 years. So I don't know what they're going to change it to or whatever, but it does seem like it's a tough, like nobody ever runs that baseline. You hardly ever see it unless it's a left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
You're never going to see right-handed hitter go to the box because it's away. You're trying to get there as fast as you can. You're not going to take a step this way.
No.
So I don't know what the answer is, but I don't know unless they just use the box till about 5 feet out. Maybe because I think personally, I think the reason for the rule is the guy bunts it in front of the plate, catcher comes out, grabs it. The guy's right there, and he throws it and nails him in the back, halfway down the line, 3/4 down the line, or whatever. It's not really for at the base. So I think the only thing they can do is if they made it, let's call it 40, move it back to 40 feet from home plate, and then maybe 5 feet from the base, or 10 feet, or whatever it is. No more. So even if you're inside the whole way, once it gets to be about 10 feet from the base, you're okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just my personal opinion. I mean, I don't know. You were a catcher back in the day, too. What do you think? I mean, I'm sure you fielded a few bunts and see guys and nail guys in the back or whatever. I mean,
well, I at first when I first saw it, I was obviously you have that kind of reaction, and for you it's going to be a bit different because you've been so trained in all of that. So automatically, your brain's flick into umpire mode, and it's like, okay, boom, that's the right call, bang, right?
He was right on the line. He was exactly what they taught us to be. That's one of the first things they teach you, to be honest with you. On any ground ball, for a home plate umpire to come in there and sit on that line. Stand on that line and see what's going on, even if it's coming from shortstop or whatever, which is not going to matter. But I mean, that's one of the first things they teach you.
Yeah. No, I was at first my reaction was, geez, I don't know. That's man. I thought if anything it was gutsy that he called it because he could have got away and he could have just let it go and the play just went on and then he would have had to deal with Hinch a little bit and obviously the Houston crowd. But I think most people would have said, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But he made the right call and props on him for knowing the rule. That had to be clearly clicking through his mind as he jumps out, as you said, watching that play unfold. So, props to him that he did, and it has been proven that it was the right call and all that. As far as changing, I don't know. I think it gets magnified because it's the World Series. It's like officiating in any sport. When you get to the big playoff games or championship games, it seems like, and a lot of that seems to be happening lately. Like last year we had the call in New Orleans with the Rams and the Saints, and that, mind you, that was extremely blatant. That should have been called. That was a no-brainer. But then, immediately people are coming out, you got to do this, replay for all this. I think we're going to we're going too far with it. I noticed I seen a heading there today that this whole robo-ump thing, they're now going to move that into certain places of the minor leagues for this upcoming season. So that tells me that they are inching that thing ever so close to the major league level. And I don't know if I would have to watch games. I never watched any of those trial things. I didn't YouTube nothing. I would have to watch a minor league game to see what that's all about. But to me, sport's still about the human element. And I know the money that's involved and blah, 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 blah. I understand the whole argument. But it's humans that play the game, and we should allow humans to be the one for the most part. To me, anything a scoring play, like a home run, yes. Was the ball over the fence, right? Was it interfered with? In hockey, was it a goal? Was the puck completely over the line? Did the ball hit the line on football? I think those things are fair game because those can be altering of the. But after that, I think you just got to let these guys do their job, because as much as I complain myself, and I bitch, at the end of the day when I sit back and calm about it, I think, you know what? I don't think I would want it any other way, because I think that's what adds to the game, is that emotion of that guy fucked up on the call, and then you're left there eating fucking crow because come find out, no, he was right. The call. I think that's just part of the sports experience to me. So
I've missed all the arguments, to be honest with you. I mean, we still have some, but we don't have as many.
No, it's not even nowhere close to what you used to. It's like baseball is becoming like hockey, and that hockey's trying to eliminate fighting completely out of the game, and they're almost there. You may as well say it's just about to that point. Baseball's trying to get itself to the point where no calls get disputed. Like there's nothing. Like I missed the day of Earl Weaver, man, coming in there and turning his hat around and kicking his blood.
Exactly. But I did see something, and I don't know a lot about the robo-ump. Obviously, I haven't really looked into it, and maybe eventually we'll get there. I think there is I think they got a long way to go. But I think there was I saw something in the Atlantic League or wherever they were doing it that one of the batters or coach or manager or whatever actually got thrown out for arguing a robocall. Arguing a robocall. So, I'm still never gonna change. Let's go ahead and say, Duke, and I mean, if this thing is going to be by the letter of the law, you are going to see a lot of balls, curveballs in the dirt called strikes, because they went across the front part of the plate at the bottom of the knee and ended up in the dirt. Which, technically it's a strike, but that's not a strike we've ever seen.
No.
And there's things that there's common sense that a robo-ump is not going to be able to give you. But I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to be old man umpire here and say it'll never happen or anything like that. But I just hope common sense prevails and they don't change the game too much. That love kind of thing.
No. Although I do believe this year they are coming in with the 3 innings thing. Your reliever, if you bring a reliever, has to be 3 batters. Thank you. Yep, 3 batters. You have to face the minimum.
Are they bringing in MLB this year?
I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
Right. If they did, I'm not 100% against that. I'm not 100%. I do think they have to do something. I don't like these one batter, one these specialists, and all this stuff. I mean, maybe go back to the days.
Well, you go back. Yeah, well, you end up going to commercial after every friggin' change, man. It's
and that's on. I mean, I do agree that games are too long. Something has to be done.
Yeah.
They're trying a little bit, little by little, but I don't know. But I mean, it's too long. They are way too long. I mean, these World Series games weren't getting nowhere here until after 1 o'clock. I mean, man, 4 hours, right? Everybody always played the Red Sox and Yankees, not just the Red Sox and Yankees.
No. I think the networks have a bit to do with it as well. I think they're purposely dragged out in some instances because that is a good argument, because you could say, okay, well, Red Sox, Yankees always, and they generally have been, but we have seen that tendency go over into other games now. So it's not just these guys, unless you want to argue that this is the way hitting, like Boston and New York, has kind of reestablished how hitting is done take lots of pitches and stuff. I mean, that's a possibility, but again, I agree. They have to look at some things, and some things are pretty simple, like eliminating all these mound visits. Though I guess now you have so many per game,
like 5 or 6 per game or something
like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying. They're trying. It's baby steps, right? You have to do as much as you can without changing the game itself. And obviously, if they do put in this 3-batter limit or minimum, that will change the game some for sure.
Yep.
But it's not something like I said, back in the day, man. You didn't have these guys coming in just for one batter and taking it. I mean, that didn't happen back 30 years ago, dude.
No.
I mean, really. I mean, they could have done it, but they never did. They didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, things have to be, they do have to change some things for sure. They got to make them. They got to shorten it up. They got to get under 3 hour. Get under there.
Well, especially when you're looking at the NBA and the NHL now. I mean, a lot of their games are under 3 hours. And actually, I think I read somewhere where their attendances and tendencies in both leagues seem to be improving. More people are starting to watch the NBA and the NHL now again compared to MLB. And, just talking a little bit about to look ahead to the offseason, MLB really, they have to change their ways. They have to start to look at, especially if they're trying to coax in this new younger generation. I mean, for you and I, it's not so bad because we love the game and we could sit and watch a 5-hour game and get just as much out of it as somebody does a 3-hour hockey game. But that is not going to work with these young people today. It's just not there. And so this prima donna attitude of, you still think you're the top sport in America or the second top sport, these guys have to take a hard look because it's not working. Attendance, I think I saw the other day for the 3rd year in a row has dropped, live attendance and things. So I don't know. Things have to change, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about the attendance. I'm sure TV viewing is probably down for sure. And I think that's even more important to them than actually live attendance. Like somebody's going to a ball game, they're there for the duration anyway. But yeah, you say about 3 hours. I mean, football's long as well, but nobody cares. It's on Sunday. It's an event. I mean, the football watching experience is an event. I mean, you get your Sundays, Monday nights, your Thursday nights, or whatever, and nobody really cares if it goes. The only thing you care about if you're watching an early game, you want to watch the 5 o'clock, or here in Atlantic Canada, the 5 o'clock game, and your early game goes over or something. That's the only thing you really care about. As far as whether it goes 3 hours or 3.5, it really doesn't matter to most people, right? It's not the same as in sports, but. I agree, and I do think this new commissioner does have that.
Without it,
he's really a little younger guy. He's ready to kind of do change. He's not Bud Selig. He's not set in his ways, kind of thing. But there's no point doing change for the sake of change, as we know.
Well, he's dealing with some of these. Yeah, he's dealing with some of these older owners too. I mean, I think guys like John Henry. Maybe even the Yankees ownership, the Steinbrenners are still fairly young. Those kind of guys might be a little easier to get on board with a lot of the changes, but I think he's got some sound ideas. He's working towards it, but I don't think it's going to be an overnight thing, and I don't know if I'd want it to be an overnight fix. I think gradually bring it in. Let me get accustomed to, like next year, this whole 3-batter type thing, which is definitely going to change the strategy of the game and stuff. So does that change, even that little change, do you think that'll have an effect on the way teams approach their offseason? Does that affect that much, or is that more just a coaching thing, how a coach in games manages in games?
Well, I think it's definitely a tiebreaker for you. I mean, if you're looking at a left-handed specialist or something, really can't get it right-handers, and if if that kind of came in, you're probably not going to value that guy as much as somebody else, right? I mean, not too many teams going to have 3 left-handers in a row. It's just, that would be one of the situations that I would say. So, I got to think it's got to play into it for sure.
But does that increase the value? Does that increase the value of some of these bullpen guys now? Like, especially in this analytics, and that's the other thing I was going to talk about was the guy the Red Sox hired as their chief executive officer, Chaim Bloom, came from Tampa Bay. I mean, if you followed this at all, he's had tremendous success being part of that Tampa Bay organization. I mean, just one of them. I just despise Tampa with all of my might. Man, I just. But with that said, you have to tip your cap at the success that organization has had on a shoestring budget that they deal with. But from what I understand, he's maybe even more analytics than anything they've had. Like when Theo was in there, Theo Epstein, that was that start of Moneyball thinking. Only they had money to back it. But now, with the Red Sox wanting to get under that $208 million, I don't think it's ironic. This is the guy they hired because they didn't interview nobody else besides Bloom, and I think there's a reason for that, and it's because of his ability to be able to find those diamonds in the rough, put that system in place to put a competitive team together without having to spend over that luxury tax threshold. So it makes you wonder, like these guys bullpen guys who have already gained value. We've seen that happen in the last, we'll say, 10 years, in which the value of a bullpen artist has gotten better. This thing here now, where you got to pitch to at least 3 hitters, I have to think that really increases their value, and I think you're going to see a shifting of money going a bit more to the relief now. What do you think about that? Will it affect that much?
I guess. I don't know, sir. It's going to take value away from some people and then add value to others, I guess. The guys that can get multiple, not just the, getting left-handers or not just getting right-handers, I guess their value will go up.
Right.
Whereas the specialists like the freaking, left-handers, that it's usually left-handers, it's usually a left-hander that comes in and just face a left-hander batter, right? Usually those guys. Usually the righties can get everybody.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of balance. The balance of power goes to the guy that can get anybody out. Multiple batters out kind of thing. I don't know. In the end, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It is a big deal to those specialists, that's for sure. But in the end game, I don't think it's a huge deal. But it's definitely something else for the the analytics guys or whatever to take a look at.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So JD Drew. Oh my God! Going way back. JD Martinez. He decides not to opt out of his contract with the Red Sox. Are you happy about that, or would you have liked to seen him opt out and see what this Bloom does with the payroll flexibility that would have offered?
I'm fucking ecstatic about this, actually, okay. Duke. I don't think you can replace that bad lineup for that kind of money.
Yeah.
I really don't. He didn't have the greatest year last year, but none of them did.
His not great year is probably career years for a lot of people.
I mean, you look at what that man done 2 years ago at the plate. I mean, for $23 million for the next 2 years. Isn't that what it is? 23 for the next 2 years?
He still has the option to opt out again next year.
Yeah. Let's call it 23 this year then.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what he's waiting for. Maybe he's trying, maybe he's going to try to go there and go 340, 40, 120 and try to get more. Well, we'll take his 340, 40, and 120 for 23 million. So, honestly, I mean, everybody says about, all worried about Mookie Betts and obviously he's got to be a priority, but I don't think him, JD, opting in really is going to affect that. I think that's something that I don't think they could replace him for that kind of money.
No.
So I am quite happy with it. I really was resigned to the fact that I thought he was going to be gone, and when I found out that he signed, I was quite happy about that. I mean, obviously they got a lot further to go, but that's a start, and let's not. I hate to, it's November. We can be optimistic, dude. I mean, come on, man.
We're in first place, Blades. What are you talking about?
It's not much different from the team that won the World Series, dude.
I know. But man, Man, you can't say you didn't get discouraged with that team at times last year. It's like, man, when are they going to pick it up?
Of course did.
Jeez.
Of course you did. But, man, I mean, it's still the same team. Except for Kimbrel, which is, I don't know, he's dead, I think.
Well, that was a good move. That move was a smart, and who's the other one they didn't sign? Still Kelly.
Everybody said it's a double, didn't they? Everybody said, why did we sign Kimbrel? Why did we sign Kimbrel? See what happened when he started pitching for the Cubs for about 3 weeks, or I don't even know if he lasted that long.
No.
And he was good when he pitched for him. They knew what they were doing there. It was just they needed to replace him was the problem. I mean, the problem wasn't not signing Kimbrel. The problem was not getting a replacement for him.
Yeah.
You need to stop. You really need a closer. I mean, even if it doesn't have to be, Chapman or whoever. Right? You see what happened with Chapman. I mean, against Houston. So they'll get a shitty grin on his face. Well, I don't blame him. He's making 18 in next year. So that's fine.
He's not either way. He wasn't. He might have lost, but he didn't lose at the same time. But the other thing that I did hear, I don't know if you heard about it in recent days. The Texas Rangers have some money to spend. They've got payroll flexibility, and they're moving into a new ballpark. Obviously, with Cole out there, who's the other big pitcher free agent? Strasburg is out there now. Rendon and all that. But I think for the Rangers, they're talking for pitching. They definitely are in need for some pitching. There are some rumors, and, of course, we are going to start hearing all kinds of rumors and stuff. It's the offseason. That's what makes it fun. There's a potential for the Red Sox in Texas to look at maybe moving, who did he say, Eovaldi and possibly Price to Texas. Do you hear about that?
I did, and I actually heard that Bogarts could be in on that deal.
I would not want Bogarts in on that deal.
That's what I heard, though. Now, I don't know. That might be one of those things that if they're going to take Price's contract and Eovaldi's contract, you're going to have to sweeten the deal. I can't imagine Texas. If Texas takes just Price and Eovaldi, I think I could give it to them. I would give them both those guys for a bat and a dozen balls if they take contracts. Wouldn't you? That would be right. Price did his job for the most part. But
you can't lose Bogarts.
No, I didn't say that. I said if Texas would take just Price and just Eovaldi, I don't even care what they get back.
No, you were saying you heard Bogarts.
What I'm saying is they're saying that Bogarts might have to be in on that deal. He's the guy, and then the other two guys just throw in just to say, you know what, you got to take these damn contracts that we don't want anymore, and we'll give you this guy. And I know I'm not 100% in on it, but the only thing is I can't imagine how are they going to keep Bogarts' bets like after this year. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. If trading Bogarts in this deal, let's just say, I mean, it's a rumor, but if trading Bogarts with those guys lets them sign bets, I'd be fine with it.
You'd be fine with that one?
That's the only reason. I'd rather have bets than Bogarts, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And that's understandable.
You get Devers, you still got a nucleus there. I'm not saying I don't like Bogarts. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
I'm saying if it's either or, I would rather have Betts than Bogarts. I think Betts brings more to the table than Bogarts.
Well, they do have Marco Hernandez, who is a guy that I think, given a full opportunity, don't get me wrong, he's not going to replace Bogarts' numbers, anytime soon. But that kid's got some potential there. And I know if they don't move Bogarts, he's probably the plan for second base, which raises another interesting question for the Red Sox is with Dustin Pedroia. He has another year of his contract. And, I was talking to Karen yesterday because that was one of the first players that drawed her to the Red Sox was Petey. And I said, it's as a fan, it's a tough call. I mean, that man worked for that contract, right? If he decides to come back as a fan, you can't be upset with him. Who in their right mind goes and leaves $16 million on the table? And it's 2 more years he's got, I think?
I honestly don't know. But
one or two.
I say they just, I don't know what he's got, but I mean, I just honestly, I mean, I'm as big a Droid fan as anybody. I don't want to see him play again.
Not like that.
Perfectly honest.
Not like
No.
that.
But I don't want to see him retire. I'd rather, buy him out or something, or keep him as a coach or something. I don't know, but I'd be fine with that. But, yeah, his days are done as a player.
I would say they are. I would say they are. Hopefully they'll honor him in a way that he can walk away with his head held high, and the Red Sox can come out looking, like they handled it with class, right? Acknowledging him. So we'll see a lot's going to happen here in the next couple of months for sure and stuff. So definitely something we'll be talking more about as we get into the off season. One last thing we will talk about, so Link can't say we didn't talk no hockey, but Link, unfortunately, go Bruins. How about them Bruins last night? I know you said you only watched a little bit of that second period, but I watched pretty much the whole game. They get up 3-0, just looking great against Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh's kind of they haven't really found their stride, and it's not sure whether they're going to be a top contender this year. But anytime you got Malkin and Crosby, you're going to be lurking for sure. But 3-0, and man, I'm telling you, that second period, I thought I was watching the Patriots-Ravens game. Holy cow. 4 unanswered goals, 4-3 going into the third, still looking shitty in the first minute or two, 3 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell? How do you go from totally dominating in the first period, 3-0, and then you just wet the bed altogether? Somehow, whatever got said to him in the locker room, I don't even think they had to say anything to him, because I think to a man they must have been just saying, what the fuck did we just do? How did we blow a 3 Blades, it wasn't even close. They just were terrible in that second
piece of it. Yeah, I just saw a bit of it. I saw the second goal. I think that was on a power play actually for Pittsburgh, so I didn't really realize too much. But
11-1-2. They're 11-1-2. 24 points, 1 point behind Washington overall. My thing is
2 in hand Washington as well. So,
what's that?
Let's not. So they're 1 point behind, but they played 2 less games.
2 less games.
Really call them their first place.
I don't know. I don't want them going the route of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
That's true.
But how do you tell a team not to win games?
It's a nice start. Especially what? I don't know if the Stanley Cup runner-up hangover is kind of similar to the Super Bowl runner-up hangover has been. But I mean, if that is a thing, I guess they've jumped out of the gate anyway. I would say. They took over. The juggernaut Buffalo Sabres. They jumped out there. They kind of come back down or lost 3 in a row. Still up there 9-4-2, but I mean, and they got some good young players, but let's not get crazy on Buffalo there. But Tampa Bay still going to be there, as far as I'm concerned. There's
too much talent, way too much talent.
Too much talent there. I mean, the Islanders won 9 in a row. You know that?
Oh, I know that because on my Twitter feed, there's this girl from the island. Was it Kim M? Anyway, she's a huge third generation Islander fan. Her grandparents were there for Bob Nystrom's goal against Philadelphia on that Saturday, May afternoon when I was cutting the lawn up there behind Stephen Atwood's. I remember that as plain as day when that was happening. And then her parents, I guess, were Islander fans after that. They didn't quite see what the grandparents saw. And so anyway, she's on my the Sunday Night Sports Guys Twitter thing. And she's on there all the time. She is I mean, for a girl, I don't mean anything by it, but she's just ecstatic. And she's knowledgeable. She has a podcast every Sunday night at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, I checked it out one time there. She was not too bad. She's knowledgeable, but she gets a little too showboaty. It's like, you don't need to do that. You're smart. You know the game. Let's just talk the game here and stuff. So,
That's what we don't want to be showboaty. We do.
I don't know. We know how to do that at 50, can we?
I don't know. We'll have to check her out. See how showboaty she is.
Yeah. Well, I never know. Maybe we get her on the show someday. Talk hockey.
Good. Oh, God. Let back on here for that one.
Yeah, we'll need Mac for that. All right, Blasey, I think we've covered that one. Gee, Cripe, here we are, an hour and 20 minutes. Seems like when you and I get together, we can't keep this thing under an hour regardless.
Good. That's good.
Yep.
Just have yarn, dude. That's all we're doing.
All it is, just a sports yarn. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching the Sunday Night Sports, guys. We appreciate your support, and we will be back in 7 days. As far as I know, T-Mac will be back in the house, and he'll give us a little bit of a report on what went on in Le Montreal, see how them Canadians are doing, and we promise we will have a bit better of a hockey segment next week for our hockey crowd. So everybody have yourself... What's that?
One thing, all right. I know that was your sign off. Curling this weekend in Pictou County, Nova Scotia, the Pitching Grand Slam on Sportsnet.
Oh.
Tune in.
You going to it?
The kids are for sure. I might go on Saturday, I think, but the kids are there all weekend actually. So yeah, it's a big thing. Last year they had they have this Pitching Grand Slam kind of tour they have, right? So this weekend actually in Pictou County, and starts on Sportsnet I think on Thursday, and that kind of thing. So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to thing. I just wanted to bring that up.
No problem. We're in that time of the year we can't leave out these valuable details.
If anybody's still watching that around 20 minutes, they fucking don't give a shit.
Probably not. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you again in 7 days. Everybody have yourself a great week and stay out of trouble. Bye for now.
Yeah.